This is Reynolds Podcast, The Creative Mindset. Hi, everyone. Welcome to The Creative Mindset, a podcast about what the future holds at the intersection of creativity and technology. I'm Ray Nomoto, the founding partner of I&CO, a global innovation firm based in New York and Tokyo. Today's guest, Ana Andjelic, is someone who knows a thing or two about branding in this new age of brand marketing. This is part 2 of my conversation with Ana, a brand executive, a doctor of sociology, and the author of The Business of Aspiration and the popular newsletter, The Sociology of Business. If you haven't listened to part 1, please do have a listen. In part 2, I asked her thoughts on what it takes for someone like her to help transform a brand, as well as my takeaways from her writing on the new rules of brand marketing. So let's get started. Especially in the past 10 years, as you went into these fashion houses to bring about a change, and you've helped these brands grow and change. When you join a conversation or when you see an organization, what are the tells of an organization that are, okay, if I go into this organization, I'm able to make a meaningful change? What are the tells and signs of a company that are going to be, okay, the change can happen?
Honestly, if I thought about that, I think that's unbelievably intelligent to think about that. But at the same time, as a practitioner, theoretically, it's unbelievable. You have to think. But as a practitioner, if I thought about that, I would never do anything. You have to have that sort of naivete and that dumbness at the end of the day. I need to go in dumbly believing that this organization can change,
Yeah.
Because otherwise I would just get caught up in ways to change it. That would become my job.
Yeah.
And instead I just assume, and it's so wrong. Like it has to be a working hypothesis,
Yeah.
And that is proved right or wrong, or something else. You need to say no. It's actually this is where we are going. And then obviously that's a harder way, because there are some things that are in every chief marketing officer, chief brands officer remit, that they can shape the organization the way they think they're going to deliver the vision, the strategy, the promise, the results, the business results they need to deliver. So that's almost the easy part, again, theoretically. When you say, hey, I'm going to redo this, there is a brand strategy, there is brand creative, there is cultural influence, and now the process is break down the silos, the process is like this is how you work with merchandising, with design, with retail, with channels, with e-com, and so on, So that part can be done. And then the hard part is to inspire people, to motivate people who've been there maybe 17 years, 15 years, 10 years, to do things differently. So in that sense, that is like you have, again, to be naive there and assume that people want to change, which is not true for a number of different reasons. But then at least you need to have a critical mass. And that is when actually it becomes clear who actually does want to embrace and change and grow, who believes. And who doesn't, which that information doesn't actually not actionable. It's just manageable. You can't actually say, hey, you're not part of this organization anymore. No, you need to manage that.
Yeah. So I'm assuming that Banana Republic was one of those successful cases where you were able to effectively introduce change. But to your point, in any of the organizations, especially legacy organization, there may be people who have been there for a decade, 2 decades, or even more. So whether it's Banana Republic or any other organizations that you've been part of, what did you do to change the minds of those people, especially if they have been at the company for a long time, or they've had some senior positions? I would assume that they might be a little bit uncomfortable with change.
Yeah, I don't think you can change people's minds unless they decide that they want their minds changed. So you just don't, it's just going against the wall if you do that. But what is good is that there is a rationale for creating, say, a new process, new way of working, new delivery. There is a rationale. So at least rationally, they understand that there is, there is rhyme and reason of doing certain things in a certain way.
Yeah.
And it's never a good idea to say, hey, this is like a North Star and it's a gigantic. No, break it down. Like do something very quick, very measurable so people can change what you actually mean. So that's number one. And also it's a good idea going in to say, hey, what exactly do you want to change? So you force the people who are in charge to kind of commit and say, hey, no, remember it was in writing, you really want to change this, so now we actually have to do that. Because otherwise it's very very generic, very unspecified, very abstract. But then it really comes down to trust. It comes down to that personal connection that you have with someone. And even if they don't believe, they may do it because they like you. Or because they trust that like this person is here brought in to do what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we may get our bonus and we may be better, So it is really like that. What's your experience?
My experience with change?
Yeah, because you're a change agent. Companies bring you in for that particular reason. They don't say, Ray, do the same.
Yeah, I do this in two different ways. One is what I've been doing in the past 7-8 years or so that I've been running my company, that we are hired by CEOs, COOs, the C-suites, and or business leaders. And sometimes there's a specific ask, hey, can you make this, or can you come up with an idea for that? And sometimes it's a much broader ask. Hey, you know what? I think as a CEO, we may need to do things differently. Can you be our advisor and see what we can do? And to your point, it takes a long time, and especially like a lot of my clientele. I am based in New York, but probably half of my clientele is Japan-based. They're global organizations, right? But they're Japan-based. And the C-suites are based in Japan, or the executives are based in Japan, or Japanese people. And Japan and Japanese culture are notoriously traditional and slow to change. I guess the good news with that is the relationships that we've been able to build as a firm. We've kept them for 5, 6, 7, say 8 years, and we've been around. I've been running my company for the past 8 years or so, but it does take time. It takes a lot of patience. It takes time to build trust. But I would say in my personal case, and I think the niche that we've been able to create for ourselves is to bridge the gap between high level, abstract business goals and challenges that they have with tangible, you said practice, like the theory and the practice aspect of it. So turning high level abstract theories into tangible practice. And we do this by way of design and creative outputs and strategic outputs that are visual and visible, and something that are tangible. And that's sort of the gap that we feel, the bridge that we've become to connect the management and the day-to-day.
And that bridge is in the form of a presentation or a campaign, or how does it look, that bridge, that middleware?
That's a really good question. And the answer would be all of it. Mm-hmm. So it's not one thing. And I would say campaign is the least thing that we do. It's not that we don't do campaigns, but it's usually like the last thing that we do if we do it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It starts with a conversation, and then it becomes, even before a presentation, thought starters. Hey, what about this? What about that? And just bouncing ideas off of us and the leaders. And then over time, usually takes a couple of months to go from abstract conversations to, hey, and then that's when we bring, hey, what if we did this initiative? Mm-hmm. And that quote unquote initiative could be in the form of let's say a new membership program, or a new service design, or in the form of retail. And like I said, it's rarely campaign activities. Oh wow, I'm getting. Well, what's going on? You know what? I think I can see my hand gestures.
Yes.
Yeah. So going from very abstract conversations, and our job is to turn those abstract conversations into, okay, what can we do in the next 6, 12, 18 months?
Right. And all right. So that's 1,000%. So my question then for you, and we can then move on, is
Sure.
leave? That's not the challenge. The challenge is continuous adoption, because there is such thing as organizational muscle memory.
Yeah.
So you come in, you design a new membership program, new service design, and so new retail experience.
Yeah.
But then you leave. How do you ensure that organization keeps implementing that? That is the biggest challenge, even when you're inside. Is.
Yeah, I would say what's been most successful for us is to establish, and it takes a long time, but to establish a relationship with the C-suites, particularly the CEO. So say like Uniqlo, we've been working with them for 8 years, and it probably took us and took me the first 3 years to win the trust of Mr. and I. And, we just renewed our contract with them a couple months ago. And I speak to him on a monthly basis. And so, for instance, when I was in the big agency world, under AKQA or WPP or those places, we would rarely have access to the CEOs. And now our MO is to establish relationship with the CEOs and having those conversations over time, but frequently enough that we bring ideas to them. What do you think? And once that we have at least not necessarily the buy-ins, but we say the trust from the CEOs, then the team under him or her trust us to help them.
Yes, but you see, that's more maybe like this is a relevant conversation because it's about organizational change, and here in organizations that are more hierarchical, of course the buy-in from a CEO or even just from me as a chief brand officer should be enough, but it's not, because people then you really need to win trust not just from your boss or my boss CEO, but also people under.
Yeah, one very specific thing that wasn't just about the CEO, but I think something that we did was very critical in instilling a mindset into the rest of the organization. And if I were to make it very tactical, it was a presentation that we helped craft for the investors meeting. So the CEO and the business strategy, the corporate strategy team came to us and asked us to help craft a presentation, right? So we worked with them for 3 months or so to craft this presentation. And the presentation wasn't delivered by the CEO, but was delivered by like a mid-level manager director. And it was to the investors, but also it was shared internally at this company. They didn't even know that it was us, but the message and the content and the strategy in it, which was delivered in the form of a presentation, very different from the previous presentation that they've done.
Right.
The previous presentations, particularly to investors, were charts, tables, numbers, and bullet points. And what we did was take that and make it into narratives and tangible examples, visual examples. And then that was shared with the investors and the rest of the organization. And this was back in 2020. 2020 was the fall of 2020. It was with A36 and we've worked with A6 for 6-7 years now. But that particular thing, and it wasn't a campaign, it wasn't a membership program, it was a presentation. So the moment that I knew that what we did 3-4 years ago did resonate in the organization was that I was talking to another client, and that client happened to have had a meeting with somebody from A6. And what we included in the presentation, this other client said that, so-and-so from A6 actually talked about it.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, that means like what we did is really part of the fabric of that organization.
Right. No, that's exactly, those are small wins, that accumulate. It's like 1% rule. You change everything just a little bit and you have that cumulative gain at the end.
Yeah. So I guess to summarize what you're asking me, the way we've been most effective working with brands is a lot of the things are behind the scenes. A lot of the things that we do are under the surface, and they wouldn't see the public's eye. Some of the things that they do, but a lot of things, but those are the things. It's both the public facing, customer facing things that we do, but also it's behind the scenes, bridging the gap between the management and the day to day, and these types of sort of, not so like a creative agency would never take on an assignment to do a presentation for investors.
Right. No.
Yeah. It's not sexy enough, right? Yeah. But what we do is to bring meaningful change to these organizations. And those are the unsexy things that do make the difference.
It is, and it goes back to what we talked about before, how the field of creative expression is broadened. So that was your creative expression.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, and that is, again, how I look at technology, it's about problem solving, but not just problems, I need to do this more efficient. That's the least of those that interest me. It's how to have more fun, how to have more entertainment, how to be more, that's what I write about the business of aspiration. How do you feel belong in part of community, signal your status?
Yeah.
So that's for me that like how brands that imagine worlds of brands are really, how do I help someone signal their status, show their taste, show their knowledge, show their belonging.
Yeah.
That is the overarching theme when I
right. Yeah. Another question that I want to ask you more about your career and your profession and what you do. What has been the biggest challenge for you working with these organizations?
There are different challenges, and I think speed of change. Organizations want transformation, but nobody wants to change. So they say they want to change, but they actually don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
And then you're like, we want disruption. No, you're too disruptive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like that is more, even with those who are kind of adopting that, they're not willing to kind of be in a war mode for a year or something. You know what I mean? So I think that is actually what organizations say and what they actually feel are two different things. And I'm sure you encountered that as well.
Yeah.
That's why now I'm like, okay, guys, I don't care what you say. I don't believe you. It's going to take 5 years. And it's not going to take a year. And we're just not going to do that. Because I know you say you want to do that, but you actually don't want to do that. And I fell for that before, and now I'm not falling for it. So that is challenging.
Yeah.
And then what is challenging to me personally is tediousness of it's kind of lack of stimulation that is inherent part of those roles, which everyone thinks going brand side, you're just like doing all of this. God, no, it's hands on. It's a grind. I only often feel like you need to be very hands-on in a sense that you need to be part of all those meetings, all those processes. If you're chief brand officer, you're responsible for the entire creative output. And it's like every week, review all social posts, all websites, all emails. I mean, it becomes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is a grind.
Yeah.
It's not fun and games and you are on a photo shoot. Like even that becomes a grind because you're like, is this consistently executed? So you become like that person who ensures consistent execution of the vision. So once the vision is set and strategy is that day-to-day hands-on. Maybe I should become a different kind of. Maybe I should become less hands-on. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm doing this wrong. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? To sell things, and every day you have sales reports, and it's kind of responsibility. It's really big that you can't. You kind of like become tactical by default.
Yeah. So what's next for you? What's next for Ana Andjelic? I mean, you've moved on from Esprit.
I have moved on. I absolutely have moved on.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like at this stage of my career, again, I'm like very considered about my next step because I kind of feel like I've done my due.
Yeah.
In a sense, I've done a couple of times and I know that drill. So now it's more like I'm probably looking for a more stable environment, less entrepreneurial. No, that's a joke. But I'm looking for a longer time horizon.
I see.
I'm looking for a longer time horizon when CEOs or where the change is more expanded and probably not brand turnaround, but maybe brand growth.
I see.
Like brand is already doing well, so how do we take it to the next step? That will be a new challenge for me.
I see.
Because you said I always come like what I said about Banana Republic is like regression towards the means, which means Banana was doing so bad that it was not doing so well afterwards. It was just doing so bad. So it sounded like it didn't sound. The results were where they should have been like long time ago. You know? So in that sense, it's like, but what if I actually have someone who's doing great? But they have a challenge. Hey, we wanna create a brand world, or we want to become a lifestyle brand. We want to have a more offering between menswear, women's wear, accessories, so on. So it can be like more stable challenge.
I see.
It's going to take more time. That is what I'm actually more keen to do next.
I see. Interesting. So do I read this correctly if I said you don't know your next place yet?
Well, I'm not telling you, but
I was subtly trying to pull that out of you.
You were, but I was not falling for it. I was like,
yeah.
Stay tuned, Ray.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, maybe next time we'll have a conversation that could be you can tell more about it.
Yeah.
Lightning questions.
During the interview, we dig deep into different topics surrounding creativity. On the contrary, with this section, we ask the same questions to the guests to react on the spot, and we don't let them see the questions in advance. Question number 1. If you weren't doing this, brand building, brand marketing, and even writing about business, what else could you see yourself doing?
I was really into film direction, like when I was younger. So maybe I would have had like more courage to pursue that.
Cool. Question number 2. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would you live?
Still New York.
Still New York?
Because, you have to remember I'm not from the US. I'm from Belgrade, Serbia.
Right.
So for me, it was like I wanted to live in New York. And that was my question. If you were everywhere to live, I was like, I made my pick.
I see. The next place you would travel to for fun, where would you like to travel to?
I'm longing to go back to Japan. We haven't been there since 2020.
Yeah.
Miss so much Japan.
Question number 4. What's your favorite food, dish, cuisine?
I think Serbian food, but because just, you grew up on that.
Yeah.
But I didn't even grow up, but they're like a traditional Serbian food.
Yeah, what's a typical Serbian dish?
You have all the sausages, all the roasts, all the sort of little cevapi sauce. It's very heavy,
I see.
But it's also very aromatic, very spicy. Oh, I want to eat some now.
Question number 5. What's your favorite song?
Ooh, I don't know if I have a favorite song. And honestly, it also probably goes back to Serbian songs. So I think I probably have some from high school or something. So if I hear that, it was complete. But honestly, I can't tell you one. But let's just say Serbian music, but not national. It's just more like Serbian bands from the 90s.
Okay. Question number 6. What was your turning point in your life and or career?
I think maybe the biggest turning point was professionally. You kind of feel at some point that you're on the other side somehow. Because before you have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah.
You just keep doing it like maniac. You're just like, and then there is a moment when you all of a sudden you know what you're doing.
Right. What was that moment that you felt like, okay, I'm on the other side?
I think it was maybe during Banana Republic, maybe after Banana Republic. It's fairly recently. It's not one moment. It's just all of a sudden
Right.
you become someone chill and calm down. And it's like, I got this.
Question number 7. What is your superpower?
Oh, I can, and that's what I realized over time. I didn't know this until maybe a couple of years ago. I can read the zeitgeist. I know exactly how a brand should be. Why is the right proposition for Esprit rules don't apply, or Banana Republic imagined world, or I can read culture. I have a feeling the things what I write about, I know that's in the air. So I say I don't have many talents, but I can read culture.
Last question. For you, Ana Andjelic, what is creativity?
Creativity is seeing hidden connections.
Seeing hidden connections?
Kind of connecting two things that no one thought to connect before.
That was part 2 of my conversation with Ana Andjelic, a brand executive, a doctor of sociology, the author of the book, The Business of Aspiration, and the popular newsletter, The Sociology of Business. Towards the end of the conversation, we did our usual rapid-fire questions, and I asked her what her superpower was, to which she answered, seeing the patterns in the zeitgeist. This is what academics and professors tend to do, but what makes Ana unique is her ability to see these patterns and make them relatable and tangible in the commercial world, particularly in fashion. In one of her most popular posts of her newsletter, she writes about the new rules of brand marketing. In it, she outlines 12 shifts in the patterns of brand marketing. I'd like to highlight 3 that I think relate to my chat with her in this and last episodes. These 3 are the most relevant rules today. Rule number 1, from product to styling. Number 2, celebrity person to celebrity product. And number 3, brand strategy to cultural strategy. Rule number 1, from product to styling. When it comes to marketing, whether it's performance marketing or brand marketing, the job of a marketer is to tout the product feature or the benefits to the audience so that they would buy into the specific benefit or the feature. Instead, Ana argues that it's less important to focus on the product or the product benefits, but it's more important to let the audience mix and match those products in their own ways and in their own imagination. In the age of TikTok and Instagram, where anybody can be a stylist, you never know what combination of different products, whether it's multiple products from one brand, rarely the case, but more likely multiple products from multiple brands, or using a product in a way that the brand may not have anticipated, that's really going to be what captures the imagination of the general public, as opposed to brands trying to manufacture that imagination. Since it's difficult for brands to know which styling is going to win, what they can do is seeding those products into certain communities so that those community members can mix and match those products in authentic and unexpected ways that brands couldn't do. In her writing, she says, quote, "More important than a skirt or a pair of boots is how they come together thanks to TikTok and Instagram, where people buy from other people, get inspired by them, and emulate their style." Rule number 2, celebrity person to celebrity product. Celebrities have long been a huge driver in creating awareness and building brands. As we saw in, say, this year's Super Bowl commercials, there were a ton of celebrities endorsing not just one brand, but multiple brands. Of course, that will continue to be one of the ways brands can rely in order to increase their business. But the problem with that kind of approach is that it gets expensive very quickly. Having to pay millions of dollars to a celebrity in just one spot or one season, it's just not a sustainable strategy, especially when a lot of the organizations are trying to be more and more frugal. Instead, if you can create a celebrity out of the product lineup that you have, not only is it going to be cost effective, but also it will be a revenue driver in a direct and tangible way. One such example is a case from Uniqlo a couple years ago. There was a bag, a shoulder bag that they introduced for a season, and after the product was introduced, just a regular teenage girl in Europe took that product, did a quick product demonstration on TikTok that went viral, and then 18 to 24 months later, Uniqlo keeps introducing different versions of the same product. Initially, they didn't expect this product to be such a hit product. It's one of the many, many utility items, not even the main utility item they would have in the lineup. A bag is not their specialty. They are a fashion apparel brand. So they make shirts, they make pants, they make socks and other things, but a bag wasn't in their main lineup. They just happened to create this bag because the product designers at Uniqlo thought something like this would be convenient and useful for their audience. Turns out that it was more convenient and more useful than the product designers thought, and a regular person in her authentic voice happens to do a product demo, and the rest is history. So sometimes it's difficult to create this kind of phenomena intentionally, but the point is you need to be listening to what's happening in culture, in the market, and being able to respond with the product as much as possible. In Uniqlo's case, when they were creating, it's not that they responded to a specific product need, but it's after the fact that they responded with different versions of the same product month after season after season, and 4, 5, 6 seasons later, they're still introducing new versions of the same product, creating a massive revenue opportunity beyond their imagination. So this notion of the shift from celebrity person to celebrity product, it's not easy to do intentionally, but if you can do it, it can be a cost-effective and revenue-generating driver. Rule number 3, from brand strategy to culture strategy. What was good about the old way of creating a brand strategy was that we didn't have to be so reactive to culture. We could have a certain point of view, certain product lineup, and certain goals, and create a strategy around it and for it so that we can drive the conversation. But that power dynamic has completely shifted in the past 2 decades, and it's really culture and people who drive the conversation. So instead of brands trying to drive the strategy, brands need to be aware of what's happening in culture as much as possible real time so that they can respond to culture as quickly as possible. Repeating the cycle, then brands can become part of culture, and instead of reacting to noise or trying to stand out in the noise, they can then become the one to create that noise. So the old way of doing brand strategy is to find a certain positioning for a given product or brand and create a strategy around it. Instead, what I think Ana is arguing or making a case for is for a brand to be aware of the culture around it and find a strategic way to be part of that culture. So rule number 3, the shift from brand strategy to culture strategy. So to summarize, 3 of the 12 shifts or the rules of new brand marketing as described by Ana. 1, the shift from product to styling. 2, the shift from celebrity person to celebrity product. And 3, brand strategy to culture strategy. There are 9 remaining other shifts that she argues for. So I encourage you to check out her newsletter, Sociology of Business. That was part 2 of my conversation with Ana Andjelic, a brand executive, a doctor of sociology, and the author of The Business of Aspiration and the popular newsletter, The Sociology of Business. If you're listening to this on Spotify, there's a Q&A field, so please do send us your questions and comments. And if you like our podcast, please leave us a 5-star rating in whatever app you're listening to. We'd be so grateful. I'm Ray Inamoto, and this is The Creative Mindset. See you next time.